Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to cilinixfxcapital and welcome to your daily updates on XRP. We're going to do a full update on XRP right here. We'll talk about the technical situation. We'll talk a little bit about fundamentals. Obviously, I'll do your daily XRP ETF update, which we have some good news about that again, which has been amazing. And it's time for that good news to actually manifest itself on the charts. Potentially it already has. I mean, XRP, you should not forget this. I mean, XRP has one of the most stable charts right now. And even if you compare XRP to Bitcoin, for example, you can see that XRP is actually relatively strong. Like Bitcoin at the moment, I believe, is trading below the June lows, and XRP is trading above that. So pretty strong. So maybe those XRP inflows are already manifested on the charts, but ultimately I do think we can rally higher because of that. We'll talk about that, and we'll talk about the general technical circumstances right now, which I think have improved for the better. Yesterday, we found some strong support here at the 7-day rolling VWAP and the 50 EMA. So certain signs that we are getting into an uptrend, but from a balance perspective, we've just gotten back into the same balance as we've been in for the majority last week right here, right? So the question is okay, can we hold that? That was not the strongest balance. And now again, we have that massive gap to the downside, which so far we haven't tested, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But we'll talk about whether it's likely we're going to test that, what's the next price target, what to expect in general from XRP. So let's get right into it. Now, first of all, like I said, we actually had XRP ETF inflows again. I am not certain if we can already see that on CoinGlass. It seems to be not that case, but so value, which also seems to have correct data, and they're a little bit quicker with it, so I prefer them for now. What you can see right there is that, again, we had total inflows of $50 million yesterday. That creates the total inflows of this week. Let me do some quick maths. Over $200 million in the first 3 days, okay? And it is slowing down slightly, but if you compare it week to week, right? If you compare last week to this week, it's actually not slowing down. It's actually speeding up this week. Very interesting, obviously, also with that with the Vanguard news that we had 2 days ago. But this is bullish. I mean, I cannot spin this in any other way. There's definitely things we can be very critical about when it comes to Ripple and XRP, and especially, you know, the, how do you call it? Kind of the value transmission from Ripple, which I think at this point of time is creating a lot of value into XRP. I think that's not happening at the right proportion right now. But ultimately, technically, we're holding on very well. The fundamentals are good. It's relatively strong. If you take a look at something like XRP ETH or XRP BTC, there's definitely possibilities for an uptrend there. So I cannot do anything, or I cannot hold anything but hold a bullish bias. And that is what I've held in the past weeks, and that is also what I'm going to hold right now after the price action right here on the 12-hour time frame. Now, the thing is, and what I'm struggling with is that, okay, it's pretty clear what my price target is. My price target is right here between 2.41, where we have the point of control, into this level at 2.5, and where we end up in that level depends a lot on the momentum we have once we start rallying into that. So that's my target, and I think that is ultimately more important than how we get there. But how we get there is still the question, right? In the current price action, where we first had a strong move up, imbalances, filled those, strong move up again, imbalances to the downside. It reminds me a lot of the price action we had back in June. There we actually saw something very similar. We dropped down below the $2 support level right there, created all these fair value gaps, pushed down into most of them, pushed back up, created fair value gaps, and then those were barely filled, or at least the upper ones were filled. But then from there, we just started to rally into that point of control at 2.41, where we found some minimal resistance. Now, obviously, the context right now is very different, but the thing is that when there's strength, fundamental strength and technical strength, which I do think is apparent right now in the markets, at least short term, right? I mean, we can definitely discuss the long term. I think the long term looks a little bit more bleak for Bitcoin, for XRP. But right now, I would say that when we look at those imbalances, right? So if you zoom in on XRP, you see those single prints that we have. I think filling the bottom ones is quite likely. right? So then we're talking about 2.1, 2.09. I think that's quite likely, especially also with some news that we're getting tomorrow with the PCE price index data. But I don't expect us to fill the entire fair value gap. I think in general it's going to be a swift move down. If it's not a swift move down, that's very bearish, right? So keep that in mind as well. For if we have some news, for example, that pushes the price down, would not be great. I expect stability, and then I expect us to slowly rally into 2.28, 2.3, where we have some resistance. The fair value gap starts at 2.35, so maybe some resistance there. Like in no shape or form do I expect the same momentum as we had back in June. Right, June after the same fractal, we had a lot of momentum, but obviously then the markets were quite a bit better. So yeah, that's what I think you need to know generally on XRP right now in terms of the direction, the fundamentals, and how we get in that direction, or how we move into that direction. Hopefully it helps a little bit. So if you're interested in more XRP updates, of course, consider subscribing. But for now, thank you for watching, everybody. Take care and bye.